Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. I'm Azban Sari, the founder of the organization Peacemakers Pakistani. And the purpose of the organization is to educate people about the importance of public spaces, and we do it through the approach of placemaking movement. And we are also affiliated with the placemaking headquarters in New York. And this you are here for the session, the Urban Jam, which is the collaboration between India and Pakistan, the cross-border collaboration. And today I would like to start with my heartfelt connection due to humanity and the culture connection we have with India and what is happening around there due to the pandemic. Because our speakers today and the moderator even they are all based in India, different areas of India. Miss Vinita Shetty, she is from Pune, and Ananya is from Lucknow. Navneeta Das is from Calcutta, and Olga is basically based in Delhi, but she is right now in Russia. But we are there with you. Our prayers are there with you. So I hope this situation gets better way too soon, and our prayers are with you all. May it quickly recover from this and around the world, not only just India and Pakistan. So during this struggling time, we are here with another session just to ensure that we have something good to focus on. And so today we are here with the two of our cities, Lucknow and Peshawar. And the reason I choose these two cities is because of my very keen interest in the culture of Nawabs and the Pashtuns, and how they are very humble people, and just the way they greet people, and the adab of the Nawabs, and the handshake and hug of the Pashtuns, that's just something they relate very much, and the humbleness in their whole personality is something that think we can learn from a lot. And yes, we resemble in lots of things. Let's learn together. So looking forward to the session. And now I will introduce our moderator, Olga Shiplinskia, who is an international sustainability expert and founder of Unicity. She specializes on urban development in Asian cities with a focus on climate resilience, natural ecosystems, and several revival place-making institution development and capacity building. Over 15 years of her professional engagement, she managed 7 major international programs, covered over 20 cities and 40 countries, and worked with leading international institutions. So over to you, Olga.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Asba, and welcome everyone. It's an honor to be moderating this session, which will close a series of urban jams where we had exchanges cross-border between Pakistan and India on different aspects of placemaking, of heritage. So it's wonderful to see that we are many here today to visit the two cities of Lucknow and of Peshawar. Thank you very much, Vinita Shetty, for inviting me to be part of this exciting discussion. So what we'll do today, we'll have 2 presentations, one on each city, one on Lucknow and one on Peshawar, as you would have guessed. And then we will have an analytical brief by our third speaker, comparing the two cities, making parallels between them. After which we'll open the floor, and we really hope to have vibrant exchange with you. You're welcome to start placing your questions in the chat so that I can see what questions are coming. Maybe I can group some of them. And if we are managing the time well, I would be more than happy to open the floor a little bit also, so that beyond the speakers, you too can ask your question just with your voice rather than typing with the keyboard. So I will now introduce the 3 speakers and then give the word to them. So our first speaker is Ananya Astana. Ananya is a young and upcoming heritage conservation architect who belongs to Lucknow. She was born and brought up in Lucknow, so she knows it in and out, and she'll be our guide on Lucknow today. Ananya is passionate about heritage. She's passionate about research. She is also working with our third speaker, Nita Das, whom I'll introduce in a second, on a book on Lucknow right now. Our second speaker is Dr. Amir Khan. So Dr. Amir Khan, as much as Ananya and of course very senior, represents Peshawar, where he's lived for many years. And in fact, where he has worked for the University of Peshawar for over 35 years. Specialized in geography, but also in urban planning and master planning. In fact, he is now leading the development of the new master plan of Peshawar. Also very passionate about heritage and its different tangible and intangible aspects. So we really look forward to guide us through this city. And finally, our third speaker is Nita Das, who is graduate in architecture from the SEPT University in Ahmedabad, specialist in conservation, very much in research, but also a practicing researcher, where she both practices conservation and architecture, and she teaches and does research and publications. She has over 10 books written on Lucknow itself. She's a great specialist of this city, currently based in Calcutta. So here we are, three really exciting speakers. And, I look forward to the first presentation now. So may I invite Ananya Astana on the floor to take over, and I'll mute myself. Ananya, that is up to you.
Thank you so much, Olga. I'll just start sharing my screen. Yeah. Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to all of everybody joining us. And special thanks to Placemaking X for organizing this event, and Vinita ma'am and Asba for having me on board. And I'm really excited to be a part of this. And so as Olga introduced me, I'm a conservation architect. My name is Ananya Asthana, and I'm from Lucknow. So my presentation, through my presentation, I'll try to take you all to a small journey to Lucknow, exploring the different cultural heritage aspects of Lucknow. And not a disclaimer, but I would say that no amount of pictures and words can really do justice to the feel and the vibe of the city of Lucknow, which can only truly be experienced. But I'll try my best to be the best host with the given constraints that we have to take you all to my city. I would like to start by remembering 4 lines of the very eminent Padma Shri Dr. Yogesh Praveen ji, who is a very eminent historian and scholar who has worked a lot on Lucknow and has contributed a lot to the cultural heritage aspects of Lucknow. So these are, and we recently lost him. So this entire session is a kind of an ode from my side to him. And these are 4 lines by him, which goes like, लखनऊ है तो महज गुंबदो मीनार नहीं, सिर्फ एक शहर नहीं, कूचो बाजार नहीं, इसके आंचल में मोहब्बत के फूल खिलते हैं, इसकी गलियों में फरिश्तों के पते मिलते हैं. And I think there can be no other lines for a better segue into the presentation, because this is exactly what I am aiming at, to look at the city, to make you all look at the city beyond the architecture, beyond the build, to look at the people, the culture, and the life of the city. So quickly, not taking much time, I will just brief about the history and the context of Awadh and Lucknow. So we can broadly classify the history of Lucknow into 3 phases. One is the pre-Nawabs, that is up till 1722 AD, the Nawabs, which is the prime time of Lucknow when the city developed as a cultural center, and then the British from 1856 till the independence of India. So Lucknow was initially earlier called Lakshmanpuri, which is named after Lord Lakshman, the younger brother of Lord Ram. And during the Mughal time, Awadh was a Suba or a province under the Mughal Empire. And in 1722 AD, we see the first introduction of Nawabs into the land of Awadh when Sadat Khan or Burhanul Mulk was made the governor or Nizam of the province of Awadh. So in 1722, we see the first court of Nawabs being established in Faizabad, which is the twin city of Ayodhya. In 1764, we see a major event happening, which was the Battle of Buxar, which happened between Nawab Shuja ud Daula and the British, which he lost. So then from there on, we see a very close, a very strong influence of British presence in the Nawab court. And eventually, we'll see that British slowly kept on rising to power and how the Nawabs slowly declined. And but the major historical event happened in 1775 for Lucknow when Nawab Asif ud Daula shifted the capital of Awadh from Faizabad to Lucknow. And this is when this was a turning point for Lucknow, because till this time Lucknow was ruled by the local Parsi kings, and there was also a very strong hold of Sheikh Zadehs. It was a Sunni Muslim clan, which was also very dominant in the city, and their stronghold was in the Machi Bhavan fort of Lucknow. So then one Nawab succeeds the other till 1856, when we see that Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, who was the last Nawab of Awadh, was deposed by the British, and British completely took over the city till 1947, which will be the independence of India. And United Provinces will turn to Uttar Pradesh. Until then, from now, Lucknow remains the capital of the state. This is another archival map of 1914, the city of Lucknow. These highlighted portions are the old city palace complexes, which we will be talking about how they define the culture of the city. And we can see that they mostly developed along the banks of the river Gomti. And the general public and the city dwellers were mostly on the southern side of the city. So speaking of Asif ud Daula and how Lucknow came into being. So in 1775, when Asif ud Daula came to Lucknow, there was already a Machi Bhavan, which was a fortified complex. So Asif ud Daula took over it. And other than that, there were a few structures like Aurangzeb Mosque, which was built during the time of Aurangzeb. There's a Kuriya Ghat, which is believed to be the ashram of Kaundanya Rishi, and also named after him. Then when Asif ud Daula came, first he commissioned the building of the Daulat Khana complex, which was his palatial complex, and also the Bada Imambara. Now, I would like to mention here that Nawabs were of Persian descent, and they were followers of the Shia sect of Islam. So Imambara is a very important religious structure in Islam, and so he started with that. But I would also like to mention here that the Nawabs were devout Shia followers, but they were also very secular and secular in the administration, and very tolerant towards other religions. And this we can see in all aspects of the city. This is an archival painting where we can see Asif ud Daula in his court enjoying some musical event that is happening. So we see that Lucknow rose as a cultural center as soon as Asif ud Daula came in Lucknow. So he brought a lot of Shia culture into the city. There was a lot of open dialogue between Iran and Lucknow. A lot of monuments had Persian influences in them. And so the city, Lucknow, also started to flourish as a Shia center, as a cultural center. There were also simultaneously, we see that in Delhi, the Mughal court was declining, was on a steady decline. So many musicians, artists, writers, poets who were looking for patronage, who were fleeing the court of Delhi. So a lot of them came to Lucknow because the Nawabs were very exuberant and luxury-loving royal people. They were connoisseurs of art and culture. So they instantly gave patronage to all these artists who took Lucknow to another level of heights of being a cultural center. So I was talking about how the Nawabs were very tolerant and secular in their social outlook. And this comes me to a very important aspect of Lucknow, which is the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb of Lucknow. It is a fusion of Hindu and Islamic cultural elements, and how beautifully our city has blended these two cultural elements, and the seeds of which were sown at the time of the Nawabs, because they set the precedent themselves by celebrating all sorts of festivals. On one hand, they were mourning in Muharram, but they were also celebrating Holi in their palaces. On several accounts, it has been noted that not only Nawabs, but even the general public was used to live in harmony, and all festivals were celebrated together. There was a beautiful blend of both the cultures. And I'm very proud to say that even till now, we can see that. And Lucknow has never seen a communal riot. And I'm very proud of that. So right now, till now, we can see, for example, the festival of Bada Mangal, which is a very unique characteristic of Lucknow. It is celebrated in the Hindu calendar month of Jeth, which roughly falls in the month of June, according to the English calendar. So during that month, every Tuesday is called Bada Mangal, and there are community kitchens or bhandaras set all across the city by all communities: Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, and people on the streets, the poor people, are fed with the food from the community kitchen. And this tradition was started by one of the begums of the Nawabs, and people reciprocated with so much love that even till now the tradition has continued. And this festival of Bada Mangal doesn't happen anywhere. It's just a Lucknow thing, and it's just a symbol of the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb, which the people have still taken forward. On the other hand, we see a picture of a tazia being prepared. So there are many Hindu families all across the city, many communities who prepare tazia for the Muslims during the period of Muharram, and vice versa. Many Muslim communities who make idols of Hindu gods and goddesses for different festivals and rituals. So all these small things are a very strong character of the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb of Lucknow. Even many Nawabs have had sanctioned the construction of many temples. Even the very famous Hanuman Gadi temple of Ayodhya was also sanctioned by one of the Nawabs for his prime minister. And prime ministers of Hindu religion were also seen getting high positions in the court of Nawabs. So there was never an issue based on religion. So that's the Ganga Jamuni Tehzeeb of Lucknow. This is one archival painting of 1775, which shows Nawab Asif ud-Daula playing Holi in his court. And the great poet Mir is observing him playing Holi, and he has written 4 lines on him. Holi khele Asif ud-Daula wazir, rang sobat se ajab hai khurdo peer. कुमकुमे जो मारते भरकर गुलाल जिसके लगता आन कर फिर मेहदी लाल. So he is describing how Asif ud-Daula is playing Holi, and there's another account in which Nawab Wajid Ali Shah has himself written a Thumri. We'll come later to that point of how talented Wajid Ali Shah himself was, but this Thumri, which Wajid Ali Shah is writing, More Kanha jo aaye palat ke, ab ke Holi mein khelungi dat ke. So we see that Nawabs and the entire culture and the entire city was very tolerant, very harmonious, and a beautiful blend which can still be traced in the city. Then there's the Chowk area in the city. It's very close to Machi Bhavan and the Hossainabad area, which we were talking about earlier. So every city, most Indian cities have a Chowk area, which used to be the main market area and the main entertainment and cultural hub, basically the market area of a city. So the Chowk, certain portions of Chowk existed in Lucknow before, much before the Nawabs, from the time of Mughals. So there's an Akbari gate, there's the Firangi Mahal, which have traces much uh, 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 previously from the time of the Mughals, but Gol Darwaza and many other portions came up during the time of Nawabs. There's an incident when Nawab Asif-ud-Daula really developed the area of Chowk and the vibrant market that it was at that time. So there's a story that Nawab Asif-ud-Daula frequently used to come to the Chowk area to buy things and just to have a good time. So there was a lady selling lakh bangles, lacquer. In Hindi, it's called lakh. So lakh bangles she was selling. And Nawab Asif-ud-Daula asked her that how much is it for? So she thought that he's asking what is the material of the bangle. So she said lakh. And the ever so generous Asif-ud-Daula paid 1 lakh rupees to the lady and bought lakh bangles from her. So these are small stories related to Chowk, but Chowk now is a foodie's delight, I would say. Many people, they only associate with Lucknow in terms of food. And I wouldn't disagree with them, because Lucknow is a total foodie's paradise, and it can also be, the traces of this can also be traced back to the time of the Nawabs, because as it has been established that Nawabs were full luxury loving people. They were foodies, they loved art and culture. So food was a very important aspect in their court, and the chefs in their royal palaces were highly paid, and a major chunk of the budget was allotted to food and their pantry. And many dishes have come from the Nawab's courts. And if one should visit Lucknow and one is a foodie, Chowk is a must visit for everybody. The famous kebabs, there's the Shami kebab, there's Sikh kebab, and the ever so famous Galauti kebab, and of course Tunde kebab. So I'm sure most of the people already know the story behind Tunde ke kebab. So I'll just quickly and briefly I'll just recite the story. So once there was one of the Nawabs who had trouble eating, chewing. So he asked his chefs to prepare a dish in which he didn't have to chew. So the gentleman who prepared tunde ke kebab, he was a guy, he only had one hand, and such a person is called a tunda. So he prepared a kebab with the meat was minced so well that kebab literally just melted in the Nawab's mouth. So he immediately approved of the recipe. And then, so that's the story of Tunde ke kebab. It is a legend. It has cult status in the city and all across the country. Food lovers love to come here to gorge on some kebabs. Then there's Idris ki dum cooked biryani. There's Rahim ki nihari and kulche. All these things have a very strong Lucknowi flavor, Awadhi flavor, and uh, how modest these shops look. And once you enter them, the walls are filled with pictures of Bollywood stars and cricketers and politicians who have visited these shops for the food and for the is just commendable. And
Yeah, sorry to step in a little bit. We are already at 17 minutes.
oh, sorry,
Yes,
sorry.
we have a lot of praise in the chat over the quality of your slides, your stories. So I'm happy to give a few more minutes, but I
Yeah,
think
I'll just hurry up. So other than for my vegetarian friends out there, there's a lot more in chalk. There's Kashmiri chai, the sweet flavored pan. There's makhan malai. Quickly coming to the chicken curry of Lucknow because I can't skip that. So chicken curry is the traditional textile craft of Lucknow, and we see a lot of similarity between the architecture, the stucco work on the architecture, and the thread work, the embroidery work on the textile. So we can see the above picture is the Nakashi work on the Chota Imambara, and similarly we can see similar patterns. The shape of the arches, the domes can be similar, can be equated with the neckline of the kurta chicken curry. So there are a lot of similarities between the two. Now coming to Wajid Ali Shah, during his time, Lucknow reached the epitome of art and culture par excellence. And he himself was a trained Kathak dancer. He was a trained musician. He used to write thumris. He promoted art and culture so much that he started a Parikhana, where young girls and courtesans used to be trained in music, dance, poetry. And during his time, courtesans used to be the most educated and one of the highest taxpayers. They were trained. And right now in the Kaisar Bagh Palace, this is a map. The darker, the sepia tone is the original Kaisar Bagh, which is overlaid on the present day map. A lot of Kaisar Bagh was demolished during the mutiny of 1857. But quickly, what remains now, Kaisar Bagh still remains the cultural hub of the city. There's Baradari, where there are frequently mushairas and dance shows which keep happening. There's Bhatkhande, which is a deemed university at the place where there used to be Parikhana, where students are taught music, Kathak, dance. And quickly, these four lines I would like, it's a Thumri written by Wajid Ali Shah, and his love for Lucknow was so immense that when in 1856 he was deposed off to Calcutta, he was so upset that he wrote these very painful lines, Babul Mora Naihar Chuto Jai. In this Thumri, he is equating his own life, that it's almost, it's like death parting from his beloved Lucknow. And it's like people are carrying him on towards a pyre, and he's so upset leaving Lucknow. Then I don't know if we have time. The Kathak, as I mentioned earlier, Kathak Gharana, Lucknow Gharana of Kathak, Tabla Gharana of Kathak, Thumri, all of this flourished in Lucknow and got their own style. All of these three, the Lucknow Gharana is more expressive. It's much more graceful and more focus is given on the expressions. So this was also the time of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah and also Asaf-ud-Daula. Quickly, this is the street of Hazratganj, because Hazratganj and Ganjing is a vibe which all Lucknowites have felt, and anybody coming to Lucknow should visit Hazratganj. It's a long street which was built by one of the Nawabs because it connects residency to his Dilkusha Koti. And it was a broad street because the Nawab felt that there are cramped streets in the old city. So this was modeled after the Queen's Street in London. So right now, Hazratganj and Ganjing, as I would say, is a feel. All youngsters love hanging out here. There are markets. The street food of Hazratganj is something to really look forward to. There's Shukla Chaat House, there's Bajpai Kachori Bhandar, the famous basket chart of Royal Cafe, and the street shopping, street vendors. And this was the time during the British, and the street was really out of bounds for Indians because slogans like Indians not allowed, and those used to be hung out on the restaurants and shops. So, but now Indians are making full use of it because no matter how many malls come, the vibe of Ganjing is cannot be matched. Then, but moving ahead, Lucknow doesn't just stop at the
And,
Nawabs. I'm just
try to
finishing.
wrap
I'm
up
winding
one
up.
minute or two. When we get questions, feel free to take your
Yeah,
time.
I'm just winding up. I'm just winding up. So these are a few other monuments which came up in Lucknow recently. And I would just like to end my session by these two very famous lines by Amritlal Nagar. It says, Lucknow hum par fida aur hum fidaye Lucknow, which means that both Lucknow and I, we are mutually in awe of each other. So yeah, I think time was really less, and I would welcome all of you to come to Lucknow because Lucknow is also famous for its Mehman Nawazi, and we are good hosts. So I think Olga is just stopping me. So the rest of the points I
Yeah,
can
we
cover
said
later
this
on.
session for a long time.
Yeah.
It's an
Yeah.
excellent presentation, and now that you finished speaking, you can see all the praise you got on the chat. There is a lot of it. So
Okay.
we look forward to questions to delve a little deeper into Lucknow in a short while.
Sure.
And now let us visit Peshawar with Dr. Amir Khan. Dr. Amir, are you here with us?
Yes.
Okay, please take the floor.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It's a pleasure to talk to you all about the Peshawar. Peshawar's sorry. Yeah. This is the sequence of my presentation. After giving a brief introduction, I would talk about the identity and characteristics of the Peshawar city, including sarais, bazaars, neighborhoods, architectures, and then the different tea stalls and kawakhanas, foods, dresses, festivals, traditions, and also the music. So the Peshawar is the capital of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. This is the new name. Previously, it was known as the Northwest Frontier Province because it is located in the northwestern part of Pakistan. It is Peshawar is the gateway to the Indian subcontinent. All the invaders, the travelers, the scholars, those who enter into Indian subcontinent came through the famous Khyber Pass, Peshawar. And those who are coming from the Central Asia, they meet in Peshawar. That was the first city. And many people, they used to travel because of the trade, right from China up to through Peshawar and Afghanistan and onward to the Central Asian states and even onwards to the Europe. So this is located on the famous Silk Route. And still, the trade is the main occupation of the people of the Peshawar. And also, this is the administrative hub and educational, and you can see the cultural city. And if you see its location, it's very important. You can see that it's
Sorry to
located here.
interrupt here, sir. Kindly put your presentation in the slideshow mode so we can see
Yes.
the full screen.
Yes, you can see these maps showing the location of Peshawar. Now, this is the city is located in the Peshawar Valley, and toward the Peshawar Valley we have the Hindu Kush Mountains. Next, please. Yes. Now, yes. This is the Peshawar is one of the oldest living city in Asian subcontinent in Asia. And there was a time that its population was greater than Lahore and Karachi. And we have the remains of the Buddhist civilization. One of the important site is known as the Shahji Ki Deri. That is a very holy site for the Buddhists and for the Hindus. And also you can see here the Shahji Ki Deri, and also you can see the Gor Katri. Gor Katri, that is the graveyards of the great warriors. So, and also this city is a wall city. There are 16 gates around the city, and because in the beginning the security was the main issue. So, like other old cities, Peshawar is also a having wall. Next slide. Yes. This is the very famous bazaar known as the Qissa Khani Bazaar. You know, during the trades with the Central Asian states and northern part of the Pakistan and onwards up to Kashmir and India, the traveler, they used to come and stay in Peshawar, and the traveler, they used to talk to each other and tell their stories. And currently, and also they sit together and eat together and drinks. So that is why the bazaar is known as the Qissa Khani Bazaar. Qissa Khani is Urdu words meaning telling stories. So this is very historical bazaar, and in the beginning the city was small, and now it is growing very rapidly. But still, the old bazaar and old city is intact. Next slide. Now this is the some of the sarais. Sarais mean that the Karwan, the traders and other people in the historical period, they used to come and they stay here. And still, some of the sarais are still there. And same method is adopted. Still, people come and stay in these sarais. And these are very historical, and these buildings need the preservation, and government is trying to preserve them as well. Next. Yes, these are some of the, you know, the outside the living area, there is a bazaar. And when you enter into the residential area, then there is open space, and this open space is linked with narrow streets. So the city, the old city is very well planned. Rather, we call it the organic city. It was planned according to the then technologies, and according to the according to the climate. Still, if you go to the city, you will feel that outside temperature and the city temperature is different because of its typical design and typical structure. So these are the few slides that shows the inner cities and the bazaar. Yes, this Qissa Khani Bazaar is here, and also one of the gate. This gate is now newly built, but it is built on the old. And this Qissa Khani Bazaar, you can see the spaces are narrow, and food is being prepared, and also the tea shops and many other local foods are available, and people from outside, they used to come to the city to enjoy the foods and the kawas. And also the Kashmiri tea is also served here because many Kashmiri families, they are settled in Peshawar too. So this is another view of the Qissa Khani. You can see very old architectural designs and you can see the still the construction material. A lot of wood is used in the construction material and very well decoration and carving and which are still preserved. Next. Another view of the Qissa Khani Bazaar. You can see inside this is the inner area. Yes, this one. This is the inside the bazaar, known as the Havelis, where people live, and this is the outside the bazaar, where people they come and they do their jobs or businesses, whatever. Mainly the food and other necessary items. This is the People Mandi. This is very famous for the foods and the grains and the vegetables and meats, fish, and many other items. Next. And this is the Namak Mandi. This is a very famous food street of Peshawar, where different type of foods are available, mainly the meat, the mutton, and you can see the smokes because it's very interesting to tell you that they don't put any spices on the meat. They just put salt and they fried it, and it's very tasty. The Namak Mandi, particularly in Namak Mandi, tikkas are very famous throughout the Pakistan, and people they used to come just to enjoy the tikkas of the Namak Mandi. Also now, along with the tikkas, the rice and biryanis and kebabs and fish and the pakoras and so many other items are served along with the kawa. And kawa is famous because once you eat the kebab and tikkas, then just to clean your throat and to enjoy, they enjoy the kawa. And when they drink the kawa at the same time, they talk to each other and explain the way and the areas from where they come and enjoy. And here you can see the culture of eating together. They are enjoying the tikkas and the chapatis and in a hotel. And yes, in traditional setting. And also on the another side, you can see the kawa. And these, there is a typical skill of making kawa. You can see this big pot. Here, water is boiled all the time. And the water keeps boiling. And from here, they take water and then they put green teas and other things, sugars, and then make small pot. And then this is served in small cups. So this is typical. Even in other cities of Pakistan, they can't make kawa as the people in Peshawar, they prepared the kawa. So this is very typical. Another closer view of the food, you can see the biryanis and a lot of meat, because Pathan and Pashto speaking people, they love the meat. And then the kebab, this is known as the chapli kebab. They call it chapli because this is plain, and they make it with the onions and put a lot of spices, tomatoes, and the corn flour. And this is a typical food. And then you another see the tikkas. As I said that the Namak Mandi is famous for the tikkas. You can see another kawa khanas. On the upstairs, people sit and enjoy the kawas and also see the views. Yes, this is the typical dress of the Peshawar, particularly the women folks. They use this burqa, known as also known as the shuttlecock burqas. But now the situation is changing, and equally there are modern women, and they use the abayas and the just sheets and just very smart dress. But this is the typical, and you can see the rickshaws. Rickshaw is very famous means of travel inside the cities. But this shuttlecock, this burqa is for the Pashto speaking people, those who are very traditional. They inside the house, they are very modern. They know how to keep themselves very smart. But when they go outside, they just put burqas and go outside. So this is typical. Yes, some of the music, the Pashto music is very very interesting. The different type of music, and the lady which is here is known as the Zarsanga. She her songs are very typical and very very popular. Another person, Mr. Sardar Ali Chakar. So the people in city, they like these. So this is all about the stories and the music. Can we? Okay, let's see in the end if we could. Yes, Peshawar is also famous because personalities like Kapoor and Dalip Kumar, they born in Peshawar, and they are very famous actor in India now. But and government is trying to preserve their place, the birthplace. So much common between Peshawar and Lucknow, because both of the areas are ruled by the Mughals and Muslims, and so a lot of common things you see in Peshawar and in Lucknow. And here you can see this is the latest Kesakhwani Bazar where I'm standing. So let us try this music if time allowed. The Sangha, this one. Just to have a glimpse. Are you listening? Are you listening to the music?
Kindly play this again, sir.
Yeah, yes. So this is a typical Pashto traditional song. The lady is telling her loved one that don't forget me and I'm remembering you. And so it's very interesting. Another song is the Mr. Sardar Ali Takkar. This is the latest one. I think okay. I think this is both are mixed up. So thank you very much for listening. So this is all about, and I would be pleased to answer the questions. Thank you.
Dr. Amir, thank you so much. It was really, really wonderful to visit Peshawar through your slides. You really gave those views of small streets and corners that you don't see online like this. So it was really insightful. Many thanks. So before we open the floor, I would like to call Nita Das so that she can make some comments on the presentation, some insights, some comparisons. Nita, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Olga. Thank you very much for inviting me here, Benita. And I should really thank Asba, because when I read your brief, and I was really, what I felt really good about is that the next generation is there to take care of the world. You see, my biggest problem till now has been that, we can't do anything, about the world. But when I see people like you who are so dynamic and so involved in using the community to changing the place of the face of the so-called third world country, it makes me very proud. Thank you very much. Because somebody posted a question that, even though Peshawar, you are saying, was a well-planned city, but we are not doing anything. But you should see Asba's work. Go ahead and see how things can really be changed, and how she is being sensitizing people and using them to change the places. So thank you, Asba. I'm very proud of you, and keep continuing the good work. Olga, thank you very much, and I really like the fact Olga is a very good Kathak dancer. So I mean, she's really interested in what both the cities have to offer in terms of music, and she's been so excited about you. And thank you, Olga, for all your remarks. But I would like to concentrate on both of Ananya's and Amir Khan's presentation together, because they actually brought about something which was very, very similar in a sense. The one thing was that when I heard the four lines, Babul Mora, Nayar Chuto Hi Jai. See this, I have lived in Lucknow and I have done a lot of work in Lucknow, but I never felt that line. I just thought it was a Thumri sung by Begum Akhtar. I did not know it was written by Wajid Ali Shah when he was disposed to Calcutta. But I had to come to Calcutta in similar conditions. I was not deposed from Lucknow, but when I left Lucknow, that song took on a new meaning for me. And now I'm in Calcutta, and every time I think of Calcutta, I think of Wajid Ali Shah singing that song. Because my whole family, my whole Nayyar, my whole mother's side and father's side, they're all in Lucknow. So thank you, Ananya. I brought a lot of memories back from me. But one thing I would like to say, that when Wajid Ali Shah came to Calcutta, it was under very bad circumstances. It was the time of the Indian Mutiny, some call it the first war of independence. But the British found him too strong, because if Awadh had not fallen, we would never have come under we would never have come under the British rule, because the state of Awadh was sitting between Calcutta and Delhi. And there was no way, if Awadh had not fallen, we would have not really been subjugated by the British, or so to say, the colonial rule. So when he was deposed, he came to Calcutta, and he being a king, he lived here like a king. And we have something called Chota Lucknow in Calcutta, where the whole art and the craft, and he has a menagerie, and he has elephants and lions, and his daily expenditure was much more than the British could afford. But they had to make a choice whether you want you want India, or you want to take care of this Nawab who has such expensive tastes. So we have something called Chota Lucknow, and the culture of Calcutta that we call today really comes from the Nawabi court again of Calcutta. There is a biryani, and the music that we talk about, of Calcutta, or the Bengali culture. That really actually, is really something that comes from the Nawabs of Lucknow. So that is something that I didn't know, and I could really learn that from here. In fact, the biryani which the Nawab Sahib had brought to Lucknow was a pure this thing. But there were so many people, it is said that there were so many people he had to feed and he didn't have enough money. So he introduced the potato in the biryani. So which is like absolutely not done in a biryani. But if you come to Calcutta, your biryani will have a potato just because you had to feed more mouths. The second thing that I find very interesting in both this thing was the concept of a bazaar. Now, I think a bazaar is really the identity of the Indian subcontinent, whether we talk of India or Pakistan or Bangladesh, which is often frowned on as a place which is congested and it is dirty and it is polluted and this and that. But you see, the bazaar is the identity of most of our cities because it gives you a complete experience of all your five senses. There is something to see all the time. There is something to smell all the time. There is something to, feel all the time. And there is something to taste all the time. So, you are always engaged. Either there is the smell of food, or there is architecture, or there is, there is some music going on, somebody playing on the streets, and all the beautiful dresses that you can see over there, that you want to buy. So you're touching that, oh, let me buy this thing. Or somebody is giving you a fruit, or somebody is selling you a vegetable. So it's like a complete experience. I mean, which the mall can never give you. Any other shopping complex cannot give you the complete experience of a mall, of a bazaar. And that bazaar street, especially when we come to the other part of what Dr. Amira was talking about, was the Kissa Khwani. Kissa Khwani is now an art form in Lucknow. But if you really look at it, it's something that really keeps the history going. Dr. Amitabh Ghosh is a famous historian. I don't know whether you know him, but he writes history in a story form. Even Yogesh Praveenji, what Ananya said, was the same thing, that he used to talk of history as a story form. And when I used to teach history, I used to ask people, do you like history? And they said no, simply because history used to be a lot of figures and a lot of chronology and a lot of data. But the history the history which has conserved the Indian subcontinent is the storytelling, is the stories that go from one portion to another. And I was reading somewhere that it is the way that humans actually connect with each other is by sharing this knowledge and these stories. So our whole mythology, our whole story, our whole culture is really based on stories, because that is something which I really enjoy
In this image,
when I come here, is to listen to stories. So Dr. Khan was talking about the Namak Mandi and the Namak Mandi kebab. I mean, that's a nice story I will never forget. And when Ananya is talking about the story of the Nawab going and paying 1 lakh for that, I mean, it may be correct, it may be incorrect, but it carries on the spirit of the space. And as a conservation architect, I have felt that if I really wanted to conserve my city, the city of Lucknow or Peshawar, storytelling is something that will survive even if the architecture does not. It will survive even if the culture does not. It will survive even if the song does not. But the stories will survive, because that is the core idea that we talk about when we talk about conservation. So when we look at the Indian subcontinent, we should look at these, which form the identity of our countries, which is the bazaar, which is the which is the storytelling, which is the food, which is a complete experience that we are talking about, and that connects at many levels. And I would like to again thank both the speakers for giving a very good talk. And I really enjoyed it because you told me a lot of stories, and stories is something I love, because stories is history, and that is what really will continue beyond my city. So even if somebody comes and destroys Lucknow, I am sure the stories of what a beautiful place it was will continue What did you say, Ananya? That I am Fida on Lucknow and Lucknow Fida on me. But that is what will have, the stories will stay, even if the city disappears, and the kissa khwanis will continue. हमारे टाइम में शहर ऐसा हुआ करता था, हमारे टाइम में खाना ऐसे बनता था, हमारे टाइम में हम ऐसे कपड़े पहनते थे, तुम्हें तो पता ही नहीं है उस कबाब का टेस्ट कैसा हुआ करता था जो हम हजरतगंज में जाके खाते थे. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Over to you, Olga, again.
Thank you so much, Nita. It's been very enjoyable when we were preparing this session to hear your insights, and again here it's been great, the connections you've been making between the two cities, between the two presentations, the points you were raising as well. You're very right. From a perspective of a European person coming to South Asian cities, I think the first thing that strikes you is the richness of the experience you've never seen before. So everything coming from all the sides, and that is not something you are used to in such a quantity altogether. So definitely that is something that can characterize the cities of the subcontinent. We already have a few questions in the chat. So because all the speakers have managed the time greatly, we have about 20 minutes to have this exchange. Maybe before I move to some of the questions in the chat, I'll use and abuse of my position of moderator to ask one question to the two speakers. So what Nita just said makes me a little sad that, if anything remains, it will be the stories. But then what about the tangible heritage that we have that is also very, very valuable? And the question I would have to the two speakers, how do people today perceive their heritage? Do they care about it? Do they see value in it? And especially the youth, how do they relate to tangible and even intangible heritage in your cities? If you could share in a few words your experience, please. Yes.
Should I go first?
Or Ananya, whoever. Yes, Ananya, please go ahead.
Okay. So I feel that I agree with what Nita ma'am said, that intangible and stories are what will always connect us to the past. But of course, having said that, the tangible is also equally important. But I feel in my city, as when I look around and other youngsters, I see if a certain structure is just kept as a monument, I think there is a kind of detachment of the people with the monument, because there's only one purpose given to it, that okay, you go visit the monument. But I've seen if any public space, like recently the Ghanta Ghar, the clock tower area in Hussainabad. So off late, we've started seeing a lot of protests and a lot of other kind of public gatherings which have been happening in that space. So that area was never meant to be a protest ground, but that's a use that came up. People started gathering there, so it's a public space. The use gradually changed. It didn't even change. It just so happened that people started gathering there, and so now it's a place with at least youngsters go there, voice their opinions, they protest. So it's something which at least they also relate to. It's a space which it's not just that it's a monument, so that's why I have to relate to it. So I think if there is a certain use, people go there, people relate to it. I think that is one thing which I've seen around. If people are engaging more with the heritage, automatically they become more connected to it, rather than just visiting a monument. One or two monuments can be popular, like the Imambadas in Lucknow, but there are so many other ASI protected monuments which are just monuments, and I don't see that kind of engagement of youngsters with those structures.
Very important.
Yeah, but it's very important to protect heritage in a way that youngsters also engage and relate to it, and not just as alienated structures from the urban fabric.
There is a question asked to me that, as I said, that Peshawar is a planned city. When I say Peshawar is a planned city, it is the then planned city. At that time, that planning was suited to the available technologies. And still, the spaces are being used accordingly. As I said, that the inside the streets are narrow, bazaar streets are narrow, but at that time, the means of communication was just on foot, or just they used animals or camels. There was no modern means of transport. And when you enter in the neighborhoods, there is an opening meeting place where people use that space for the ceremonies, and then they go in the streets. And still, the people give weightage to this. Some of the Peshawari people, they move outside the city, but they can't adjust, and then they come back to their old residence because they enjoy the local culture, local areas, and meeting people and telling stories and all these things. So the in case of Peshawar, that is why I use the term the Peshawar, the historical living city. We don't have the too much monuments. We just have the Gor Khatri and the Shahji Ki Dairy. These are the monuments, but rest of all these spaces are being used. We have the mosque, we have the Kila Balasar, we have the Chowk Yadgar, we have the Ghanta Ghar, and these are very busy places. People, not only from Peshawar, but people from outside, they come and they enjoy and they talk to each other. And so this is a living culture. And there is much common between Lucknow and the Peshawar. Rather, I should say much common between India and Pakistan. This is the just after the partition, but actually, culturally, historically, the people of India and Pakistan are the same.
That's a great message and a beautiful message that's been coming throughout these urban jumps, which is really great. I think that we've been brought together like this through these sessions and realize even more. I think most of people have already been realizing this, but realize even more how close we are actually. Nita, would you have any comments on the discussion on how people perceive heritage today?
I think what Ananya was saying was very true. For one thing, that there is too much heritage sometimes. I mean, there's too many monuments really to look at. That is one issue. And the second is that I've been in the field for 35 years, and I feel that the conservation, this amount of budget that needs for conservation in the true sense of the word, in the way that we look at it, that is not very high up in the agenda of a city, because it has other issues to deal with, like infrastructure development, or it can be maybe a garbage disposal system, or maybe waterworks or something, even poverty alleviation or health care, or education. So the way that what Ananya was saying really is the point, is if all these heritage buildings can become a part of mainstream development, and they are taken as a part of the mainstream development and not taken away from the mainstream city, and then you just start restoring a building and keeping it as a monument, rather than if it is used by the urban planners as part of something valuable within the city, treat it as such. Just the way we treat elders in our family with respect. We don't expect them to go out and earn a living, but they are there for their own value, for the value of experience, for something that they have to offer. You see, so the family is complete with an elder in the family and the child, and that's how the values are transferred from one generation to another. In the same way, conservation in India or in the Indian subcontinent would have to be the monument would have to be a part of mainstream development. It would have to become relevant to the youngster. It will have to become relevant to the city. It will have to generate revenue, and it will have to have some sort of a futuristic vision. If you can make it mainstream, if any monument can be made mainstream, then there will be no dearth of development of these places. But if it was to be treated in excuse my saying so, in a Western model of restoration and make monumentalization, it will not work. But what Dr. Khan said, it has to be a living heritage. It has to continue to move, and then only it can work. That is what I feel when we talk about these things.
Really beautiful example of the elderly in our families. Need something I'll remember. We have a few questions in the chat, and I think because we do have a bit of time, maybe you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. Starting with the first one we received on the chat. KM, are you with us? If you are, please unmute yourself and ask your question. Do we still have KM with us, or he may have left? Okay. Maybe we can still take his question or her question, even if they're not here, because it's an interesting one. So here he's talking about organic growth, and then that today the government is invested in some places which do not seem to be as lively as food-oriented places, and food plays an important part in Lucknow. So that's a question to Ananya. How do you think we can mesh the placemaking of the organic versus the plant? And what challenges do you foresee? Ananya, if you want to see that written, if you scroll a little up.
Yeah, I'm just reading the question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the placemaking of Lucknow. Okay. I think, in the newer parts of the city, there have been some deliberate attempts by the government to create a sort of food street, but those plans haven't really worked out well, not well received by the public. So I think the planned development around food, I think he is mentioning that. How do you think we can mesh the placemaking of organic versus plant? I think if we, one thing we can do, now we cannot plan something and plan that that it should be organically, like organically, if something is happening, it has to happen organically on its own. But I think at least what we can do is bring better placemaking solutions to the organic streets or the organic settlements or food streets which we have. So I think that we can do. But how to bring, now we cannot compare a street in suppose the new part of the city and compare it that it is not as lively as Chalk. So yeah, I don't know. I feel that the organic places, we can have some better placemaking solutions to make them more comfortable and to make them a better experience. But I'm not sure. I think many factors play in how a planned development can mesh the gap. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what my point is that we can bring better solutions in the organic, the already the streets which we have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ananya. We had a couple of questions from Hamza Paracha. So I think one, Dr. Amir has started answering, but Hamza, if you're here, would you like to say your questions to the speakers?
Yeah, hello. I was wondering, what do Anaya think? What do you think about the placemaking in case of Lucknow? What is placemaking to you? If Ma'am Neeta can answer as well, that would be very great. And if Sir Amir would shed some light on it, that would be good.
I'll go first. Uh, Hamza, that's a very good question. You see, I've always wondered what placemaking was. And I really didn't know that because when my friend used to come from New York, she said every time I came to Lucknow, you see, I had this full schedule. And I had decided that I will do this as this time and this as this time and, continue to. She had this whole schedule worked out, which she was going to do in Lucknow. But after like a couple of days and with all the food and all the talk, the schedule would just go out. And she said that there is no time in Lucknow. It just stops. Time just stops. So like 12 months are now 24 months. So if you want to plan, you just put half of it. So a lot of the placemaking had to go in how the time in these cities can really slow down. And then I came to Calcutta. I thought Lucknow was the slowest city of the world, other than I've heard that even some parts of Europe are like that. But when I came to Calcutta, the city was even slower because you would only get half a cup of tea and people could spend 1 hour only on this small cup of this kawa tea type of a tea you get here, which is a black tea. It's liquor with masala. And you can sit and you can discuss politics. You can discuss the latest existential problems of life, or you can discuss football. But all in half a cup of tea for over hours till you're really literally kicked out. You see, and that is placemaking because it offers you that comfort to sit in an urban space for 2 hours where the weather is good, the friends are good, the people are good, there's something to eat, something to talk about, and people who are intelligent enough to answer you, they are cultured. It's not about just talking about random stuff. So the culture has to be there. People have to be educated. People have to be cultured. They need to know about music. They need to know about dance. They need to know about politics. They have to have a place to sit, and they have to have a place to talk, and they have to have something to drink, and that too very cheap. It's just 5 rupees. So 1 hour of entertainment in 5 rupees, I think, is good placemaking. That's my idea of a place.
Well, thank you, Anita. You explained very well. In case of Peshawar, we have, I just gave the example of Qissa Khwani Bazaar and Namak Mandi and Pipal Mandi. There are so many places. There are so many bazaars. Rather, they are the specialized bazaar. There is a bazaar where only the pots are prepared. The pots of pottery, the silvers and the coppers and the irons. We call it Bazar-e-Loharan. And then there is the shops of the goldsmith. The whole bazaar is there. So for these specialized things, people come from outside, not only from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, but sometimes they used to come from the Afghanistan. And you know that the Peshawar is it has the locational advantage. So it's not only the people of the KP, but people from other areas, surrounding areas, they come. And also a lot of tourists. Before 80s, many tourists, they used to come to Peshawar and they enjoy. But after 80s, due to the political situation, the environment was not such. But now, again, we have the same situation, very peaceful conditions, and people, they come and enjoy, and they visit these typical bazaar for the souvenirs, they buy the things, the bazaar of the goldsmith and jewelries, and also the copper souvenirs, very famous. Also the woodworks and carving, so many things, and also the embroideries, typical Pashto, the Pathan embroideries work on the children jackets and the women's so a lot of spaces, and these different bazaars, people go there and spend their time and they enjoy. And sometimes people come and they say, okay, I am in Peshawar just to go and enjoy the Namak Mandi. Other will come, okay, I'm here just to go and buy the jewelry. Another, okay, I'm here just to go and buy the wood souvenirs and so on and so forth. So these different bazaars, they tell us their importance and their uses, their spaces. Although now there are other bazaars and other areas, but still the old city, they have their historical and cultural values. And here I use the term organic city. And by organic city mean that from the very beginning, this city is planned because there is a wall and there are bazaars and there is a hierarchy of the area, the function. This is the area for common space use, and this is the area, private areas, and this is streets, and this is the place for the worships and so on and so forth. So we have different cultures. Still, we have in Peshawar, we have a lot of Sikhs, a lot of Hindus and other people. So they have their own spaces and they use it. And also people from outside, they come and they visit. So I use the term organic city. Organic mean that at that time it was planned, and still the space is adjusting itself with the new technologies. And that is why now it looked very congested, but at that time it was just not very congested as it is now. I remember when I came to Peshawar in 1976 as a student, Peshawar was very small and everybody know each other. That, okay, who lives there? Oh, such and such person lives there, and by name. But now because of this population growth, and we have the problem of a lot of refugees came, and all of a sudden the Peshawar changed, you see. But still the spaces are there and people have the association and they go and they enjoy.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Hi,
Nita.
okay, should I go?
Yes, Ananya, you also wanted. Yes, please.
Yeah, Hamza. So placemaking for me, I think what I mentioned in one of my slides also in the presentation, I was talking about Hazratganj. It's a street in Lucknow, and the association with the place and is so much that there's a verb now. It's called ganjing. It is nothing but just what people do when they go to Hazratganj. And Ganjing has so much, the word has so much association for all Lucknowites. In fact, more so in the previous, like one generation older to me, who used to go to Hazratganj to just chill, to just hang out. And most of them were youngsters who couldn't even afford to shop because the shops were quite expensive branded showrooms. But still, the place and the association with the place, and how the not just the youngsters, everybody, how they associated with the place and the vibe which the place had, that it has now become a verb. That, okay, what should we do? Let's go ganjing. Ganjing is nothing but what you do in a place and how you associate with the place. So I think a successful placemaking, without thinking about it as placemaking, is that literally just hanging out in the place has become a verb and a thing to do in the city. So I think that is placemaking for me.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, thanks a lot, Ananya, for this. I don't think we have any more questions in the chat, but would someone like to quickly take a word for a question, for a quick comment? Just unmute yourself.
I would just like to talk about the potato.
Okay.
You know, there are three
Yes,
or four
in fact, there is this debate going on the chat. Yes.
Now they are proving my point. I gave one small story of one small insignificant potato. And you see, next time I tell the story, I will say it has been contested, but it could have been because the Portuguese got it. Then they'll say, no, it's an Indian dish. We cannot live without potato. Then somebody will say, no, it was an expensive dish. And KK told me that, no, it's not expensive enough. So it could have been that, you know, I am right. So that next time my story is going to be much, much more interesting. And I'm sure this will continue. And this is called socializing, having something to talk about. Otherwise, what will we talk about if we knew exactly what had happened?
Very nice.
So, Varnika? Yeah.
Anyone else would like to jump in? Since we are in placemaking, you know, I want to make this forum a little open. So just feel free to quickly take a word. We still have 5-7 minutes. before we wrap up. So just feel free. Okay, so we have a very disciplined audience who likes to listen. So I do have a question, maybe then in this case it will be a concluding question to both the speakers, or rather on the two cities. So in my experience in Delhi and a number of other cities in India, there are a lot of gated communities which kind of break that connection or connectivity in the city. So you walk somewhere, then suddenly you can't walk somewhere. This space you can go, this space you cannot go. So I was wondering whether Lucknow and Peshawar face such setups or not. And if they do, then how it happens? Is this being addressed to an extent by the new master plans or not so much? What is the situation?
There are not many gated communities in Lucknow, like the newer parts of the city. I think you're referring to those gated cities, right? Where the colonies are gated.
Residents where, you know, they would lock the gates at night and they would kind of filter the passage of people.
Yeah.
Daytime there would be guards, so some people would be discouraged from coming, basically. So
Yeah, I think even I've noticed it a lot in Delhi, but not so much in Lucknow till now. Apart from the flat systems or the apartments have compounds, but other than in the colonies, it's not very prevalent here. It may be because people are insecure and the crime rates are increasing, but otherwise, till now, I don't see it as a trend in Lucknow.
And in Peshawar, is it anything that is happening or not so much?
No, in Peshawar, we don't have any such restricted places, except few one like Killa Balasar. That is a historical fort now occupied by the army, but still the arranged tour can be made. Similarly, we have the Governor House that is also very historical. The Britisher, they built in the cantonment, but still our cantonments are open, and arranged tour can be made, no problem. We don't have any restrictions spaces, and even people can visit the masjid, the mosque. Even female tourists, they go and visit. There is no restriction. So as such in Peshawar, it's almost every part is open. There is no restriction, no gates. So that is the point which I want to make.
Okay, good to know.
Olga, if you're done, before ending the presentation, I had one dance clipping of Kathak.
I can't say no to that.
Yeah, so I think if we are done, we can just finish with that because we were running late, so I didn't play it at that time. So should I share it?
Please.
Oh, sorry.
Nanya, try to increase the sound a little bit if possible.
What is happening?
There is no sound.
Ananya, can you play it from the YouTube directly? Maybe that would work better.
Sorry?
Can you play it on YouTube directly and then share your screen?
Asba, I can't hear you. What were you saying?
Can you share? Can you just play it on the YouTube and then then share your screen?
Okay, actually, it's a
Ananya,
very
you
long
may
video.
also remove
we
the
can-
speakers. Ananya, can you still hear me, Ananya?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you remove the speakers from the computer, because this is maybe the issue?
Audio.
Yes, just try it and see whether we get the sound.
Is it audible? No.
Mm.
Okay. I don't know what is happening. Sorry.
We still could see the gestures. That's
Okay.
yeah, it gave us a hint. But if you want to send us the link to this video on the chat, then we can go and visit at the
Okay.
end of the presentation.
I can do that.
Okay, great. And because I know that now we are approaching the time at which we need to wrap up, so I would just like to thank everyone and give the word to Asba for concluding remarks.
Okay. What a session. I loved it. I'm great. I have really enjoyed it. And thank you, Olga. Thank you for playing your part. Thank you for moderating the show so well. And I would thank the speakers, Ananya and Dr. Amir. Thank you so much for amazing presentations, Ananya. I love the storytelling and the way you have presented about the Lucknow. And especially, I loved how the food streets are maintained in Lucknow and the linkages and the place they have made with all the photographs and the stuff you were telling. I just love the idea. And Dr. Mir, thank you so much for your presentation on Peshawar, because I have learned a lot about Peshawar during this duration myself, and I'm looking forward to working more towards that side and visiting it as well, because I haven't to, although I'm living in Pakistan, but I haven't been to Peshawar yet.
Okay.
So I have been to the Pakhtun areas, like the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa areas, other areas. But yeah, Peshawar is next on my list. And although I haven't been there, but I have studied and I have explored a lot about the Havelis. So on my channel, we will be working more on the Haveli aspects, and I will share the link with you people. And lastly, thank you so much, Miss Nita. It is honorable for me to be to hearing those words from you, to hear that kind of appreciation for you. Yes, I am am dedicated to work towards the public spaces and for the human well-being and the community's well-being, because this is how we are going to survive. It's we are into this together. We are into this here and also in the hereafter. For whatever we do over here, we will be rewarded in the hereafter as well. So it was amazing show. I'm really happy that Peshawar Lucknow Jam worked really well, because it's something I was looking forward to. So thank you everyone. Thank you for joining us. And yes, we are planning another one for you guys. So stay tuned for more, and take care and have a good evening and good night.
Thanks
Take
a lot.
care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Allah Hafiz.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That really worked well.
And really, it was pleasure talking.
Yes. Thanks for your time.
No, it was great. A lot of beautiful insights into the into the two cities.
Thank you.
Mm.
Okay, guys, I have to rush because it's the party time here.